Welcome to the DJ Mac podcast series with me, Darajan McGann. I know it's been a while, but now I'm back. And on today's episode, I will be talking about grief and my journey of dealing with the loss and the grief since my mother's death. Glad to have you along. Stay tuned and feel free to share. This is DJ Mac. I'm back. And hello everybody, it's Darajan McGann with you on this new episode of my podcast series, and I'm bringing it to you with a very heavy heart. I haven't been with you in quite some time, and that mainly to do with the fact that my mum became very, very ill. I guess for most of last year, well, for 2.5 years, Mum and I knew that she wasn't well. She had been diagnosed with a tumour in her liver, and she chose herself not to go down the road of chemotherapy, radiotherapy. She didn't want any of that. She didn't want to be sick. She wanted to live her life as best as she could live it. And absolutely, that is what we did. And in that 2.5 years, I can say that our relationship really, really blossomed. I've made no secret of the fact that I came out to her in August of 2019 as being transgender female. And she was so supportive of that and wanted the best for me and wanted me to be the best that I could be. And I can honestly say that going forward from then, that we became closer than close, if that's even possible. Best friends, soulmates, no inhibitions, no boundaries, no secrets. We just had a most beautiful, beautiful relationship. And last year, 2021, we were in the midst of the pandemic, as we all know, and things started to get, or should I say, things started to go downhill for Mum. She went into hospital in April of last year with cellulitis in her lower back. That involved over a week getting antibiotics, only one visit allowed from me on compassionate grounds. She came home for 3 days, and unfortunately the infection, cellulitis, had spread to her legs, so she was back in for another week. But then she came home and she said, Dar, I want to enjoy life. And she had received her 2 vaccines, which she was so delighted to receive. But I could see, she was going downhill slowly. But not to, err on the impossible, Mum wanted to go for a vacation. She wanted to get away for a break. And the end of August, we went to Killorglin in County Kerry and spent 5 nights there. And it was the most beautiful time, but a sad time. I think we both knew, even though we didn't say it, I think we both knew this was going to be our last trip away. But Mum achieved what she wanted to achieve. She fulfilled what she wanted to fulfill while being away. And we came home, and I could really see the decline. It was scaring me. It really was scaring me. And whilst I never stopped transitioning, I never stopped the medication, the cosmetic approach, the putting the makeup on every morning, getting dressed up, feeling good in yourself, I found that hard. Because I could see the one person who I truly loved in my life was going downhill, was starting to fade away. Unfortunately, in early October, Mum's only sister passed away. She was 95 years of age. And that really took its toll on Mum. It left Mum being the final of the 4 siblings. But the fact that my aunt hadn't been well for some time, and the fact because of the pandemic they couldn't be together, That really, really got to her. And by the end of October, Mum ended up in hospital again. This time because of excessive swelling in her legs, in her abdomen, in her feet, her ankles. And the local GP, who is an absolute saint, by the way, really felt that maybe in the hospital they might be able to increase the fluid tablets under observation to see would that work. But unfortunately, my worst fears were realised the following day after she went into the hospital, when I got a phone call to say that the tumour in her liver had expanded and it was now compressing the main arteries going to her legs, known as, in clinical terms, as the vena cava. And they said to me we were looking at possible weeks. So I had to pluck up the courage that evening and go into the hospital on compassionate grounds. I told them that I wanted to be the one to talk to Mum. And I tried to put on my game face. As a performer, I tried to put on a performance face, but that didn't work, because once I went into the room and I saw my mum, the tears flowed. And she looked at me and she said, "Dar, the news isn't good, is it?" And I said, "No, Mama, it's not." "Well," she said, "Dar, we've had a lovely life. We've had lovely memories. We've done lovely things. We have much to be grateful for. How long are they talking?" Well, I said, "Mum, it's not an exact science, but they're saying potentially weeks." "Well, Dar, we'll make the most out of those few weeks, lovey." But she said, "What's really, really upsetting me is the thought of leaving you behind. Who is going to look after you?" And I said, "Mum, don't worry about me, lovey. I'll be fine." Knowing in my heart that I wouldn't be fine. So Mum was transferred to the oncology ward in the hospital, and she had a room to herself, and because of that I was allowed in and out every day anytime I wished, which was fantastic. But then came the hard work. Then came the battles, the focusing of minds. And for anybody listening who has ever lost a loved one and where they've wanted to come home to die, they'll understand where I'm coming from here. I had to battle so hard with public health. It's not even funny. I mean, these people, maybe they understand, maybe they don't. But don't anybody give me excuses that they're working under severe pressure because of the pandemic. Because at the end of the day, it's the patient that comes first. And the hoops I had to jump through to get a hospital bed brought in so that Mum could sleep downstairs. The hoops and the bureaucracy to get the home help installed so that Mum would have assistance if she needed it. It was just one thing after another, even down to a simple mattress on the bed, where the hospital wanted a mattress that was inflatable. I can't think of the word right now. But one that wouldn't cause bed sores. And I had public health nurses saying, "Well, we'll have to meet next week to talk about that, and it could be 2 weeks after for a response." I'm sorry, but that's just crap. Again, the patient must come first. Mum came home from hospital. I drove her home. And for the next week, we got on great. We had home help coming in twice a day, except on Sunday. But they were there to help her out of bed, you know, and look after her, get her dressed up and washed and all that for the day. And she was able to walk into the other room and watch the television with me. But it was heartbreaking to see somebody so full of life and vigour who wouldn't have thought twice about lifting a concrete block. And now things aren't working the way they should be working. Mum was home a week and she took a bit of a turn on a Wednesday evening where she vomited some blood. And I rang the hospital because they told me if anything like that happened to ring them. And I rang them and they said, look, bring your mum in. Now, hindsight is 20/20 vision. If I had been prepared for this, if I had been told that there was a possibility that she could vomit up some blood, well then, I could have dealt with that. It wouldn't have fazed me. But nobody told me that. Nobody told Mum. And sort of reluctantly, she said, I think it's probably better to go into the hospital in case it happens again. So I drove her back in to the Bansecours Hospital, and they were waiting for us. And there was no question that I couldn't go to the room with her. I could, absolutely, because as they could see it, Mum had now entered what they would call the palliative care situation or phase of her life. I should point out that the week before she was discharged, the consultant said that a referral had been sent to the community palliative care team and that they would be in contact. Well, by the time Mum went back into the hospital for her, what would be her last visit, nobody from community palliative care contacted me or Mum. But we got Mum back into the hospital. We got her comfortable. As it turns out, she never vomited again. But the way they saw it in the hospital is that we were moving into that grave area of end-of-life care. Now, I could not afford to allow that take me over because I knew I needed to care for Mum. I knew her wish was to come home to die. And no one and nobody was going to stop me from fulfilling my mum's final wish. Again, the battle started. Palliative care in the hospital, well, they were actually from outside the hospital, came in to visit Mum and I. And they were trying to convince my mother to go to a hospice. And even when I tried to get involved in the discussion, I was told to remain quiet. Well, that sort is the wrong thing to say to a family member, I'm sure you'd agree. So I needed to focus the minds. They were trying to convince Mum that she wouldn't be cared for at home, that her dying wish could not be fulfilled. And I said to Mum, I said, do you want to go to the hospice or do you want to come home? She said, I want to go home. Well, we'll speak no more about it now. You will come home. And I advised the palliative care team of this, which was received with much shock and dismay on their side. But again, the patient comes first. Mum spent another 7 days in the hospital and I eventually got her home. I'm sorry now, but I'm lighting up a cigarette as I talk about this. She was brought home by ambulance. She had to be brought back in home using a wheelchair that the HSC had provided. A wheelchair that would probably be better served inside a museum because the sides would not detach. So Mum had to be lifted from the stretcher to the wheelchair using a sheet, and then brought into the house, and again lifted out of the wheelchair into her bed in a sheet. The patient comes first. No dignity in that. All Mum wanted to do when she came home, obviously she wanted to call friends and family to let them know she was home. But she wanted to be able to get out of bed and go into the next room and watch the TV. But we were told she needed a hoist. Now, they tried a hoist on Mum in the hospital and it caused her excessive pain because of the swelling in her abdomen and in her legs caused by the issue with her liver. And when she came home, she said, Dar, I don't need a hoist You and I can do this, and we'll do this together. The following day, the occupational therapist arrived with a physiotherapist. And they said, we've come to assess you for a hoist. And Mum said, I don't need a hoist. Dara and I know what to do. So as I tried to intervene to assist Mum getting out of bed, I was told, no, you're not allowed to do that. Your mum must display that she can get out of bed herself. The patient comes first. I tried and pleaded with these people that Mum was pretty weak, that she needed help to get her legs out of the bed. Again, I was told no. So, I didn't listen. Mum looked at me, she said, Dar, help me. So I moved in, and I angled her legs out of the side of the bed, and I said, come on now, Mama, we'll do what we said we'd do. And again they said, no, your mother must do this for herself. Over the next 45 minutes, what was done to Mum was nothing short of barbaric. Trying to force her to stand. This is a woman with chronic arthritis in her knees, curvature of her spine under pain management. They wouldn't listen. They wouldn't even let her take a step. They told her she must stand straight, with her legs straight, her head up in the air. Here's a woman that's dying. Here's a woman that wants to get out of bed with the least amount of fuss and go into the other room and watch a television program. And yet, they are depriving her of her last ounce of confidence. At the end of it, Mum said to me, she said, Dar, put me back into bed, lovey, I can't do this. She was sitting out on the commode at this stage because that's what they told her to do. They made her sit in that, and they ordered her to stand up 3 times. She couldn't do it. She didn't have the strength to do it. She was filled with too much pain and discomfort. And they couldn't even get her back into the bed. They had to get a sort of a trolley to try and move her. They wouldn't let me do what I knew I could do. That was the last time Mum got out of bed. And over the next few days, Mum and I, we spent so much time together. There was nobody there at night to lend a hand. It was down to Mum and to me, and our little dog Magic. Things started to go really downhill after the weekend, and our GP, who again was a saint, was advising me to cherish the next 48 hours, as he knew. And on the Tuesday, I could see myself. She wasn't herself. The Tuesday night, she said to me, what did Dr. Harry say? I said, Ma'am, he said he'll see you in the morning. And she said, but did he say I was going? I said, and where are you going? She said, you know what I mean, going to heaven. I said, no, why? She said, I feel as if I am. So I tried to lighten the mood. I said, Mama, for God's sake, don't go tonight. I said, what would I do? The middle of the night, here on my own. My mother dies. Who am I going to call? I was just trying to make light of it. But I said, Mama, I will sit in the armchair with you tonight. Wednesday morning, she took a turn for the worst. And the GP was in. And the home help team were in. And he said, Dar, I need to intervene. She's struggling. I need to give her something to help her sleep. And the home help said to me that Mum had spoken to them just before that and said every second counts with Dara. Dr. Kelleher gave her some medication, to help her relax so she wouldn't be in discomfort or pain. I wouldn't want that for her. She asked me that she'd never suffer. A short time later, a knock came to the door, and it was a palliative care nurse with a public health nurse. They came into the room where Mum was, and the palliative care nurse said, "This is not nice. This is not good enough." I said, "What's wrong?" "We can't assess your mother. She's sleeping." I know, I'm scratching my head. Assess my mother? So I just said, "What do you want her to do? Get out and dance?" They said, "No, we can't assess to see if she's actively dying." What a horrible, cold-hearted, bloody thing to say in front of a patient and their next of kin. So I invited the public health nurse and the palliative care nurse to come into another room. And I said, "Ladies, that was the most inappropriate thing I've ever heard anybody say in front of a patient and their loved one. Actively dying." The public health nurse said, "Oh, well, that's just a clinical term we use." And I said, "Well, ladies, with the greatest of respect, go off up to your clinic now and knock yourselves out with clinical terms. But when you're in here, you'll treat my mother, the patient, with respect and with dignity and compassion. You can do so for me too if you wish, but the focus is on my mum. And remember, her hearing aid is still in," which I insisted. So I said, "Your choice." So they left. About an hour passed, they came back and they said that the GP had spoken to them and they felt it was the appropriate thing now to put on what they called the pump or the injector driver, a cocktail of medications to keep the patient comfortable. So they said because I had power of attorney, it was up to me to give consent. I said, "Give me 5 minutes." And the public health nurse said, "Well, we need to know now." I said, "Give me 5 minutes, please." So I went out to the garden and said a prayer, lit up a fag. I cried my heart out. Because I knew by giving consent, there was probably a chance where I would never again get to talk with my mum. I went back into them and I said, "Ladies, I'm not making that decision. Mum has already made that decision because she asked me to promise her that she wouldn't suffer." So I said, "Ladies, do what you must, but do no more." And that was the start of the journey. I stayed up all night Wednesday night. There was no night nurse available. The same again was there on Thursday and Thursday night. No night nurse available. I mean, what? Friday morning, I rang the facility that was supposed to supply night nurse. And they were shocked because they had never received a referral in the first place. The patient comes first. But that Friday morning was so surreal. One of the things that was so important to Mum was her faith. And she had a very beautiful, simple faith. So I sat down in the armchair in the room with her. And she was in a deep sleep. And I prayed a rosary for her. I went into the other room to do some cleaning, and I told her I was going into the other room when there came a knock to the door. A loud knock. I went out and I opened the door. There was nobody there. Nobody on the street. Nobody. So I went back in to Mum, and I became so overwhelmed. And I cried out to her. I said, "Mama, this is not right. This is not fair." And I placed my hand on her hands. Her hands were clutching her rosary bead. And as I touched her hand moved. And at that moment her breathing became ever so gentle. And that was the moment I realized, this is it. So I prayed for Mum. And I reassured her it was okay. I said, Mama, Dad is here, the Lord is here. I said, Mama, it's okay to go. I'll be okay. I will be okay, Mama, it's okay. But I said, I want you to know I love you so much with all my heart. And thank you for choosing me to be yours. But it's okay to go. And with one last gentle breath, she shed a tear. And my Mama was gone. And that was the moment that my heart broke. Now, people talk about grief in different ways. And they wonder, some people say, well, just get over it. Others say, get on with it. One person, in fact, the occupational therapist, contacted me 2 weeks after Mum died, asking me was I not looking forward to her death. I mean, I'm sorry no, but that's a little bit twisted. You see, I had a job to do. Mum had been very proactive. We had no secrets. She had picked her coffin. She had picked her music. She knew what she wanted. And I did everything that she asked. The one thing she hoped for was that there would be good support for me, from others, from family. And unfortunately, that has not been the case. Mum and I were best friends. We were soulmates. We were connected at the hip. We did everything together. She adopted me as a baby. She chose me to be hers. And when that rock has been removed, leaves a void. And that's where I'm at. I'm trying to get on with things. Thank God for my little dog, Magic. Hand on heart, I can honestly say, if she wasn't here, I wouldn't be here. I know COVID played a part in everything. People were afraid to meet up. But COVID cannot be transferred by phone or by text. People say we don't know what to say to you. Well, don't say anything, but just be there. People say we're afraid to talk about your mother. Well, why are you afraid to talk about her? I have no one to talk to about her. I want to talk about Mum. I want to talk about her great achievements. The places she lived. The places she worked. The lives she touched. I want to talk about all that. But I can hardly do that when I'm talking to myself. Grief. As somebody said to me, grief is a journey. And it comes in different levels. Mum is 15 weeks gone. And in ways, it feels like a bad dream from which I'm going to wake out of. Next Friday, I'm supposed to be receiving a Pride of Cork award in Cork. And half of me won't be there. And that's Mum. Because I surely wouldn't have been nominated for any award only for the support of my Mum. Who's going to come with me? Who can I ask? Somebody recently said to me, Dara, you're too upset. We can't be around that. Well, I remember years ago somebody saying to me that to grieve, you must first have loved. And grieving and loss and hurt are the price for loving. They're the cross we carry. I'm not bitter. I'm not twisted. But I am mad. There's a difference. I'm mad because Mum devoted her life to the care of other people. She touched so many lives in her play school, and prior to that as a nurse. And yet today, the way I feel is as if to others she never existed. And I know that everybody is going through their own difficult times. Yes, people have been bereaved. But is that a reason not to talk? Last Friday night, a friend of mine believed in me enough to give me an opportunity to get back on stage and do what I love doing, which is sing. And that's what I want to do. I want to sing, I want to talk, I want to be on radio, I want to be on TV. I want to do what I love doing. But what I could really do right now with is a hug. From someone, from anyone. Just to let me know that what I did for my mum, that I did it okay. That's all I want. Just let me know that I did right by Mum. Because so far no one has told me that. And all the happy memories that Mum spoke about to me, I can't remember them at the moment because I'm still caught in her final days when I struggled, when I had no help. I had nobody to talk to at night. Am I doing this right? Am I doing the best I can? I just want a hug from someone and let me know that it's going to be okay. Because as I said to a cousin of mine recently, I never saw a life without Mum. He said that was stupid. I don't think any of us ever sees a life without our loved ones, do we? So, I hope I haven't bored you too much. But grief is a journey. And to grieve, you must first have loved. And I can honestly say, I truly loved my mum. So this is Dara J. McGann, DJ Mac. Thanking you for listening. Hope I didn't bore you to tears. I'll do some more podcasts about Mum herself, about the life she lived. But I will do some other podcasts about other things. And right now as well, before I sign off, just to say my thoughts and prayers are with the people of Ukraine. Because at the end of the day, the only two constants are love and peace. Combined together, bring hope. So let's hope for a better tomorrow. This is DJ Mac signing off. Until next time, take care. Bye.